Hello, and welcome to part 1 of the guide to AOI Hub reporting templates. This is the first in a series of 4 videos in which we'll show you everything you need to know to prepare FATCA and CRS reports using AOI Hub. This series of videos has been updated for the 2024 version of the templates. In part 1, we're going to start by comparing the standard and premium editions of the templates. We'll look at the files that are used by AOI Hub, and we'll take a tour through the main AOI Hub reporting template. In part 2, we'll look in more detail at financial institutions, and we'll also look at submitter, sponsors, and intermediaries. In part 3, we'll look at accounts data, which will be importing and editing details of the reportable accounts. And finally, in part 4, we'll look at the process of creating reports for FATCA and CRS. So let's get started by first of all comparing the standard and premium editions. The standard edition of the AOI Hub reporting template is completely free of charge to use. It can be downloaded from the website aoihub.com. However, it is restricted. You can only create up to 5 reportable accounts for FATCA and CRS. So the submission file for FATCA or CRS is restricted to that. It's also standard and cannot be customized in any way. The premium version, by contrast, the FATCA and CRS reports can have an unlimited number of reportable accounts, and there is also the option, if you choose, for this to be customized, and that's something that we would work on with your input. The premium version of the template, we create each template for your organization specifically, which is why they can be customized, and they're downloaded from the secure client portal. For 2024, AOI Hub Premium is also free as an introductory offer so that you can try it and see if it's good for you, and then there'll be an annual charge going forward in 2025, but there'll also be no obligation. There's no obligation if you choose to trial it in 24 and don't wish to continue. That's absolutely fine. We'll be in touch later in the year with details about that. Other than the key differences that are displayed there on screen in terms of the number of accounts and how it's accessed, the template otherwise is very similar between standard and premium versions, and everything else that I'm going to be showing you on these videos is exactly the same between the standard and premium versions. I'm going to now go to the client portal to show you how you would access and download the files if you were using the premium version of the template. So here I am logged into the AOI Hub client portal for a demo client. You would see on here a folder for your organization and a folder for public documents. The public documents contains our release notes and other useful documentation like the portal access guide and the user guide. The folder for your organization is secure and accessible only to you, and within that you will find AOI Hub reporting templates and also a folder for support that you can use if you need to share information and files with us. Within the reporting templates, there'll then be a subfolder for each version that we've made available to you, and clicking into that you'll then see the AOI Hub reporting template and the various other files that I'm going to explain more about in a moment. So if you have subscribed to the premium version and we've made available a login for you on the hub, you would simply select these files and then click on download to download these to your computer. So that's the premium version. I'm now going to switch to the AOI Hub website to show you what you do for downloading the free standard version. So here I am on aoihub.com. If I go to the download page, this will give me information about the latest version, links to the release notes, etc. And at the bottom, I just need to enter my name and email address to download the files. So I've entered my name, email address there, click on this I'm Not a Robot, and then click on the download button, which should immediately start the download. So you will see in your browser that this is downloaded a zip folder. And then if you go to where your downloads are located on your computer, you'll be able to see those files. So let's take a look at that now. This is the downloads folder where I've downloaded and unzipped the content of that zip folder that's downloaded from the website, and I'll take you through each of these files now. First of all, the AOI Hub IDES encryption tool, that is a free tool that we've created to assist with the encryption of files ready for submission to the IRS for FATCA purposes. This is only relevant if you're in a Model 2 IGA jurisdiction or a jurisdiction that doesn't have an IGA with the US, because this is for submitting directly to the IRS via IDES. The second file we have on there is the user guide. This is a PDF user guide which has a lot of detail about how to use AOI Hub. It runs to over 50 pages, so as you can imagine, this is very detailed and covers every aspect of using the template. The next file we have is the actual AOI Hub reporting template itself, a macro-enabled Excel file. Now this file you can copy and you can rename as much as you like, that's absolutely fine. And we'll see more about that in a moment. The next file, AOI Hub Mapping, is the mapping file. And this is used when you have accounts or FI data that you want to import into the AOI Hub reporting template. The mapping file sets up the mappings between the columns in your source data and the fields in the reporting template so they know where to go. Next, the CRS matrix file. That is a file which is used to define the CRS reportable jurisdictions for each submitting jurisdiction, and that is something that we can update periodically as we become aware of changes to the lists of reporting jurisdictions without needing to make a new version of the main reporting template. We'll explain more about how that works in part 3 of the guide. Finally, we have the FFI list full. This is a file which is issued by the IRS and is a complete list of all of the financial institutions that have a GIN, Global Intermediary Identification Number, assigned. This is the same file that is issued by the IRS, so that as they update that each month, you can, if you want to be up to date with the very latest version, drop that version into here. With the AOI Hub Mapping, CRS Matrix and FFI list full, it's important that you don't change the names of those files, because they're used from the reporting template, and various features that I'll show you in a moment will be looking for those particular files. It's also important that you keep those files together in the same folder that the reporting template is saved in. So let's now move on to have a look at the reporting template itself. Before I open it up, one thing that you will need to do when you first downloaded it is to unblock the file. If I select the file, right click and go to Properties, Microsoft automatically, because it's detected that this file has come from the internet, it's blocked the content. So you need to, once you're happy and have verified this is a genuine AOI Hub template, you need to tick Unblock and then Apply. Now we can open the file. We're now in a copy of the AOI Hub reporting template. I'm going to step you through each of the key worksheets we've got here. The first worksheet we've got is the config worksheet. It has the toolbar at the top, and I'll explain more about that in part 2 of the guide. It has some configuration details, which are the key details for the FATCA and CRS reports. It has the submitter, and it also has the reporting financial institutions, which we'll cover in more detail in later videos. If I click on the AOI Hub logo here, about AOI Hub, it will give me information about the version of the template. First up at the top, this is showing AOI Hub Standard Edition. This is the free version of the template that's downloaded from the website. It will also show me the base version. This is the year in which the template is issued, followed by the major version, followed by the minor version. So in this case, this is the template that was issued in 2024, version 2, major version, and then we've had a minor version here because we just made some fixes between 1 and 2 minor versions. Customization is NA, because there's no customizations available in the standard version. The mappings version should usually be the same as the major base version. I'll also show where that's been updated. We'll explain more about that in later videos. And finally, the CRS matrix version is showing the version that has last been imported and synced here. More about that later. If you want to check if you're using the latest version of the template, click on Check Version. That will take you to this page within the help pages on our website, and that will show you the version and when it was released. I'll just now switch to a premium version of the template just to show you how that information differs slightly. Okay, I've switched to a premium edition. If I now look at the About, it's now showing me this is AOI Hub Premium, and it's showing me the name of the organisation, because these templates are created specially for each organisation. If you have opted to have customised functions, then this will also show you a customization version. You don't have to have customizations. It could say NA if you decided you're happy with standard functionality. On the config toolbar, I'll briefly run through some of these buttons, although we will look at these in more detail in later videos. We have on here import data, and that, when you click on it, has a number of options. You can import from a previous version of the AOI Hub template. So if you started work in an earlier version, or if you started in the standard version of the template and you then need to upgrade that into this latest version, to a premium version, you can do that, and it will allow you to copy all that data. Financial institution details, if you've got details of your FIs in a spreadsheet, you can import those, and I'll show you more about that in the second video in this series. And finally, XML. If you've got an XML file that was been created for FATCA or CRS from a previous filing, you can import that, and it will import the data into the file. More about that in a later video. Next we have the Validate button. If I click on that, that will run the validation checks across the file. In this case, it's telling me no errors have been identified. That's great. In later videos, we'll show you what happens if we do find errors. Create reports will start the process of creating the reports for FATCA and CRS, as we'll see in part 4. We've then got buttons related to the financial institution. Add FI will allow you to add details for another FI, and we'll see more about that in part 2. Delete FI, if you've got multiples, you can, and then go into the accounts, is navigating to look at the accounts for that FI. We've then got an option to recycle template, and that's very useful if you want to take a copy of the file, because it'll allow you just to clear everything out of the file in terms of the data that you've entered. We then have the options. If I click on that, it will open the options screen, and there are some general options and options for FATCA, CRS and validation. We'll look more in detail about some of those in later videos. If I click on cancel, I can close out of this without saving changes, or if I click on update, it would save the changes I'd made. Finally, on this toolbar we have the help button, and clicking on the help button wherever you see it on any screen or in any pop-up window will take you to our online help. And our online help pages are a series of web pages that we've created with details about how you complete and use the template. On the left hand side And here you can navigate between these pages in the help and find everything you need to know about using the templates. So that's all for now on the config worksheet. More about that in part 2 of the guide. I'm now going to move on to the accounts data worksheet. This is where you would enter all of the reportable accounts information, and you can use this very much like a spreadsheet in terms of entering data and working your way across from left to right, completing the fields as you go, and working across in terms of the account holder type, and entering details like the account holder name, address, birth information, and then the tax jurisdictions, of which we've got 3 you can complete. You'll notice as I've moved across there that the toolbar I had is no longer visible. If you click on the double-headed arrow, that will recenter the toolbar, and you can see you've got a number of buttons on there. I'm not going to run through all the buttons now because we'll cover that more in detail in part 3 of the guide. There is also, I'll mention now, another method that you can use for accounts data entry. Instead of using the spreadsheet mode, you can enter details of one account at a time if you wish by clicking on the account details button, which will then give you all of the information for that account in a tabbed format. So the basic account info, financial information, account holder, address details, etc. And one of the benefits with this method is that as you work your way through, it identifies errors and issues along the way. More about that in part 3 of the guide. The next worksheet we have in the template is the reports sheet. This is currently empty, but as you create reports for FATCA and CRS, this will add a row for each report created, and from here you can view and access and download the XML files and the management reports. Finally, we have the audit worksheet, and this details all of the key processes that you have run from the file. For example, here you can see that at this date and time, with this particular user logged in, I ran the validation checks. And as we'll see as we start to build up and use the template, this will add things like when you've added or deleted financial institutions, when you've run validation, when you've created reports. These will all be here. And you can also download a copy of this audit trail as a PDF or an Excel file. Finally, wherever on these toolbars you see the house icon, this will return you to the first config worksheet. That concludes this first part of the guide to AOI Hub reporting templates. In the next part, we're going to be looking at more detail at that config worksheet with the financial institutions, submitter, sponsors, and intermediaries.